What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Start, Build, Grow Show. Wow, we have an incredible episode. This one is very, very, very special to me, and you're going to find out why in a minute. But we do have a very special guest with us, Brie Reis, who has been an incredible part of my journey, and she's my partner, my sister, as well as one of the best operationally minded people in the entire industry. And she's helped so many people build incredible systems and processes for the business. So we're going to dive into that. So stay tuned. This is going to be an awesome episode. All right. Welcome in, Brie Reis, the Chief Operating Officer of the roofing of Elite Roofing and Solar, as well as the lead operations coach for the Roofing Academy. And real quick, I've been doing this show for a number of years, and this is not your first, and you've been on here before,
Right.
but I've spoken so much about, how to build a roofing company, how to be successful. Like nobody does it alone. You must have an incredible supporting cast. And this is where the truth comes out, everybody. Like this, Brie is the yin to my yang. Like there's no way our company or any of our companies would be where we are. We wouldn't have the success that we've had if it weren't for amazing people working tirelessly in the background to execute and implement the crazy ideas and the things that I have. And Brie, you are that rock. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. As always, I love being on the show.
Awesome. So this time we're going to go a little bit different here. And as always on these, this show's about sharing the entrepreneurial journey or the intrapreneurial journey, right? And you're kind of a combination of the two at this point. But, I think there's a powerful story to share here. And I want to press in a little bit on how you even got into roofing, like how you got started, like what led up to that. And then we're going to kind of dive into our journey. So I've been doing a series. And for those of you who haven't tuned in yet, make sure to check that out. Go to the YouTube channel, go to wherever you download podcasts and listen to the series. And we've been working on a series of how we got started, how we did the first million, how we did 3 million, and then 5, and then up to a multi-million-dollar company that's been operating for nearly 20 years. We're breaking down the entire journey, and you've been there for almost all of that journey. So I want to kind of press in a little bit from your perspective, as a lot of the viewers and listeners may have listened to my perspective. So it's going to be pretty interesting there. So let's get started. Like how'd you get in? How did you get here? How'd you get into roofing in the first place?
So yeah, I actually love telling this story. So it's very, some people have heard it. I'm in the roofing business because you're in the roofing business. And so at the ripe old age of 23 or 22, I was still 22 actually. My brother Randy transferred his company into a roofing company and asked me to come on as the admin assistant. And so he called me one day. I was out walking and asked me if I would be willing to do that, to come on as the admin. I didn't have a job at the time. I was 6 months pregnant with my daughter Truly. And I told him, he goes, he pitched the idea. And of course, I needed the job. But I also told him, I was like, don't hire me because I'm your sister. I want you to hire me because you think that I can do the job. We'll get deeper into it. And there's no way he thought that I could do the job. Definitely not to the level and the extent that, God has blessed us to get to. But he said the right thing that made me actually want to join on. So, I came on as a lead second employee. So pretty early on in the business. I think the business has been running about a month or a month and a half. And on the roofing side of the business. So that's how I got to roofing. I have not looked back. What other industry?
Right. So, and yeah, it's a great story. And sure, I had a little bit of an advantage because, I've known you your whole life. Right. So, I know your skill set and your energy, your attitude, and your ability to do things. So, but I didn't know really what I was getting myself into. I didn't really know what you were fully capable of. I just knew I needed somebody, you needed a job. And I was like, I knew I could trust
Mhm.
you. And I knew that, you've always been a person that like, when you put your mind to something, you're going to execute that. And I think part of that, was the part of the reasoning why this started the way it did, because you were in process of proving that to me and to the world and to our family
Yeah.
when you
Mhm.
started.
Mhm.
Share a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So you may have known that about me, but I did not know that about me. I think the only little hair of, leading up to that made me think something that there might be something like that in me is that my dad was like, I was kind of at one of my lowest places and I was over at his house and he looked at me and he was like, "You're good at everything you do." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "You're good at everything you do." He's like, "You're even good at being bad." And I was like, "Huh." Okay, now I get it. So, I went through a really, really painful and rough patch in my life. And, our family, we've been through a lot. And, we're like a gleaming example of the power of God, just based on where everybody is today and the fact that we all still love each other and all of those things. So, I had a painful experience as a young person, and I carried that into my adolescence. Um, I like to say that I covered all that pain up when I discovered drugs and alcohol. And so at 16, I discovered um, drinking, and what may have been a normal thing for some 16-year-olds just wasn't that for me. If you would have asked my friends around that time, they'd be like, "I don't even call Brie to come hang out unless I know that we can, you know, get alcohol. Like she's not
Yeah.
showing up to hang out with us unless that is going to be there. So it was something different for me, um, just to quiet the noise in my head and in my heart and all the things that I had interpreted and the immaturity that a youth does. And I'm not very expressive externally, so I didn't have anybody really that even knew that I was processing the things that I was processing, or that could help me process through them in, a true light, because it's like is all lies, that you tell yourself when you're young. And so that moved into some drug use. Um, 18, I tried cocaine for the first time. And so that really sent me into a spiral. I had just had, I was a teen mom. So I have an 18-year-old this year, and I had him at 18. I was 6 months pregnant when I graduated from high school. And he just graduated this year and is in college. I'm very proud of him. But um, he was like 2 months old when I tried cocaine for the first time. And so um, that really, really, kickstarted something completely deeper. And we all know the impact of heavy drugs like that on an individual, especially an individual prone to addiction. So from 18, I really spiraled. I never had any um, college ambitions. So when people are like, the question you get 887 times your, senior year of high school. I don't know if I got it that many times because I was clearly pregnant, but I never was like, there was never a time in high school where I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to college after high school. Like, that's what I'm gonna do." Like, I was like, as soon as this is done, I'm done. Like, I don't wanna have to continue this thing that, I don't learn the way that a lot of kids learn. I learn by doing and not by being taught or being told. I don't enjoy that avenue of learning. So I never no desire to go to college. And, so I was just trying to figure out where I wanted to go and be. And I was a mom too soon. And so just rolled into other drugs, which finally kind of landed me at methamphetamine. And so you go from like party drugs, and that's kind of where my addiction sat, was just like in the party space. But when, I started using meth, it became more of a daily, just lifetime, or like how you live your life just as an addict. And
Mm.
anybody that's been in that knows that chaos and, that daily fix grind. So that I was in my early 20s, like maybe 20 years old. So when that occurred. And so I ended up, my parents ended up taking Keenan, my son, from me for a little bit during that time. Ended up in a rehab. It didn't stick. Although I always say, and I say to other addicts going into rehab, like, rehab didn't keep me sober, but the things that I learned in rehab, I was absolutely able to apply when I decided to get sober.
Mm,
So
good.
even though I didn't, I did it, I didn't come out of there and never use again. It was so, so beneficial for me when the time came that I said, okay, like this is it, you know, um, I'm surrendering. And so, I think every adult should go to rehab actually, because addiction or not, 30 days away from the grind of life to like sort out all the stuff in your heart that you've never really dealt with. Like, how could that not be beneficial to any individual? So, life changing for me. I didn't stay sober. After that, I went to another rehab. I only stayed there 2 weeks. That didn't last very long. Um, and that was just, about a year before I started at Elite. So we're leading up to,
Yep.
yep. So, that January-ish of that year that I started at Elite, I actually ended up pregnant again. Um, my addiction was really, really bad. I was using about $100 a day which is probably nothing these days. I have no idea because I'm so far removed from that life. But $100 a day drug habit, with no job and such. So just living the full life of an addict. Didn't have anywhere to live. I was homeless. So I was, sleeping wherever I could really find that night. Luckily my boyfriend and I at the time had a steady friend that let us crash there quite a bit. So I'd never slept a night on the street, which I believe is a blessing. Um, but I ended up pregnant again in that January, and that was really just an eye opener for me. I just had so much pain surrounded around being a childless mother, I guess is the best way to say it. I missed my son. I had so much guilt around not raising him. And so I was just like, I can't do this to another child. Like I cannot absolutely this is not going to be who I'm going to stay. Like I'm going to get my son back before I have this child
Mm.
was really the
Gave you a
the
purpose.
thought. Yeah, I was like, who's going to let me keep her if I can't take care of the one I already have? I just knew like I'm not going to just push this baby out and hand this baby to somebody else. Like I loved her already. You love that little life from the time it's beating in your little belly. And so, it was really what I needed. Nothing really else mattered. I apologize here.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing else really mattered at that time. So recommitted my life to God. My mom was sweet enough to trust me another time to let me move back in with her. We moved up to Castle Rock, and she was already working for Randy as an admin for him for another roofing company. And so when Randy and her started up, I was just, kind of just 6 months sober, just trying to find my place in life again and trying to prove to my family and my parents and to my son that I meant it, that was the end, and that I was back for good. And so that's when Randy, I said I was taking a walk. That's all I did. Like I gained almost no weight pregnant because I just like spent 6 months just walking. Like every time I felt anything, out of
Yeah.
the ordinary or crazy or weird, like I walked miles and miles and miles. And that for 6 months of sobriety, I had nothing else to do. I was totally far away from friends, anybody, but I was done with it. And I mean that in every way. Like if I was at a grocery store and I walked down an aisle and I thought that, somebody looking at the catch-up was a drug addict, I would turn around and walk the other way. Like I wanted nothing, no part, I think that's okay for a time, to be completely separated from that life and that, I closed that book. It was not a chapter that I wrote and was moving on to the next. It was just done. I'm done. And that's when Randy called me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. And so there's a couple things, I think to press in there, and it's that when you made that commitment of I'm going to make this happen, right? I'm going to commit to this. And you found a purpose and really latched onto that, but one of the things too, that I think, it's really kind of sinking in, because I shared a little bit more some of my story too, where essentially within a few months of getting into the roofing industry, yourself and myself, both our stories are different. Like we went on separate paths and then kind of circled back and connected.
Yeah.
And when I got into business too, I was homeless too. I mean, and you know, somehow by the grace of God, like I didn't end up in a place where like addiction took over, you know, in my case, but I definitely walked that line for a while. Right. And then somehow it didn't grab a stronghold. And I'm grateful for that, you know, very much so.
Me too.
And, but yeah, we were both in places, really dark places in our lives, and roofing essentially kind of found you. Roofing found me 2 different times, 2 different places, and really was a catalyst that led to major change in our lives and essentially saved our lives. You know, in a sense, right? Obviously, God did that.
Yeah,
But
no.
we took the initiative, but like, I think that's really the core, and why I press into that for the listeners is that's why we do what we do today. You know, we don't have to coach others. We don't have to help others. You know, you and I together have worked for 13 years now with our other partner, Cody, and we've built something really special. Like our company has been such a blessing. It's created incredible lives and incredible blessings and success in our lives. So grateful for that. But like, I think because of the core of why we love and appreciate roofing as an industry so much is why I don't want to speak for you, but for myself, that's why I do this. Why do a podcast? Why do 5 years of a podcast? Why, you know, create a coaching platform where we're basically sharing everything, open book, everything we've learned, everything we've built, everything we've created, we share with others to help others grow.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. Is like, I feel so convicted that roofing like saved my life, and it created an opportunity that's so great in my life and my family and the lives around us, that I feel it's like a duty to give back, you know, to others and to help others. And I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like we're kind of both on the same page.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, Randy, like, that's who you are. I mean, that's why you called me that day. Like, there's nobody that would have known what I was coming out of. Like, if I could have walked into an interview and they know nothing about me, they may have given me a job. But like, you knew everything that I just came out of. You knew what my last job was. Like, you knew everything, and you still did that. You didn't do that. You know, you said you needed it, but like, you didn't really do that because you needed it. You did that because you wanted to help me. And that's been your, you know, objective from the very beginning. You just started with family. You know, and like, you know, and then you ran out of family to help. And so then you helped all your friends, and then you ran out of friends to help. And you're like, okay, who else can I like, you know, give to in this? And then that's been your heart since you were a boy. And I hope that you always have that heart, and I will always follow you in that heart. You know, how could I not? But like, I've said that a lot of times over the years, like Elite and roofing showed me what I was capable of. Like,
Absolutely.
I had no idea the skill sets that were hiding in me. Like, I didn't know my capability or my capacity or my value. And roofing showed me all of that. And that has been, every time we bring in a new admin, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to show her like what you're truly capable. You have no idea what you're truly capable of. Like, let's dive in and let's unpack it. And bring you this like self-worth and self-value. And then that also breeds just so much loyalty. Like, I'm so loyal to Elite because of everything that Elite has given me, you know?
And I love that, because that's a great segue to press in, because, you know, a lot of listeners are roofing owners, maybe just getting started. Maybe you've been in a while. You're trying to find a way to shake things up or improve and grow and build your business. And I think, you know, so much of that like happened a little bit by accident, but then we were able to figure that out, and it became a big part of our why and our purpose is creating opportunities. That's why we exist. That's why we do what we do as a company. And it's become part of our why statement, our values, is all the things. A lot of it's built around that, like creating opportunities, quality of life. And I think that's really led to the culture that we've been able to really embark on and really embrace and bring in so many really great people that are no longer with us, people that was with us currently. I think we've managed to be able to enrich all their lives. And I think that's something doesn't get talked about on podcasts and on stages and in breakout sessions and at events, is like, you have to have if you can create an environment that has a deep rooted purpose to help people grow and people be the best versions of themselves, you create loyalty and an incredible culture, and you can build a business that just thrives, right? But let's press in a little bit on your journey through this, right? You came on board, and we maybe within the first few months, the first year of the business, we started with about half a year, and then we did, I think, $500,000 that first year, and I think you probably came in the middle of that. And then that very next year, we were able to do 1.3 million, and we were able to kind of really, start off strong. But again, it was because I took that risk on, let's go put some good people that luckily I knew, and threw you guys out there into the fire between you and Mom and Cody and some of our service techs. And I shared a lot of this story again on this past thing. But from your perspective, what are some takeaways that you learned from the first maybe year, first 2 years, or the first couple $1 million in revenue as we correlate with the two different shows?
Yeah. So it's hard to just look back at that 1 year or 2 years and not also see the rest, and then not also see like all the other businesses we touch and the way that they do it. And I think one thing that we did that really stands out, really you did, that's really stands out to me in those first couple of years was like, yes, you were the owner. And yes, you started this thing, but like you immediately put people into place. Whereas what I find a lot in a lot of new businesses as they start out, they are, and yeah, you don't want to throw a whole workforce. Just for the record, I'm not saying throw a whole workforce at a 1-year-old company, but you got a salesperson, you had an accounting person, you had an admin. So those like staples, that service guy. So yeah, there's 4 of us. It's not a huge organization, but it created an ability for you to be the owner right from the very beginning, and for revenue to continue. And yeah, you were doing some sales and things like that, but you weren't doing everything. And so I think that stands out to me in our ability to grow faster, is that we created an organization from almost the beginning, not just a one-man show, waiting for that opportunity to become an organization. So I think that's one thing that you did differently that gave us this ability to scale at the rate that we scaled, because we always had a mindset of that. Max out a person and add another. As soon as we had a need, we did it. And there was some grace there from the Lord, for sure, that got us through some of those years in payroll and all of those things. But that risk that you're willing to take from the beginning, like, I'm building a company. I'm not going to be chucking the truck for the first 2 years until I feel comfortable enough to make my first hire. So I think that's one thing I can see that's a stand aside from what other works do.
I love that. And thank you for bringing that up. But here, I'll caveat, because she came in on the roofing side, right? This was round 2.
Yeah,
I learned round 1 was me doing everything. Round 1 was, like trying to do it all on my own, being that quote unquote truck in a truck. And, no disrespect for the trucks out there. I love you guys.
No,
But the stereotype of that, right? Of the one-man band, so to speak. I 100% was that guy, and it didn't work. So I learned from that. And when I reestablished myself and reestablished the business, that's how we started. It was like, no, I'm building this thing like a business, right? This needs to be an organization. Think of building a business like building a house. You've got to have multiple components, and not one person can do all the things, right? You're not going to have your framer doing electrical work. You're not going to have your electrician doing roofing work. You're not going to have your roofer building a foundation, right? You have to have each component, each contractor, each person that has a certain skill set to build that house. We have to think of business the same way. And you mentioned something that, got to get, we have another partner, Cody, and he always says this too, is like, when we bring someone in, everybody has a basin, right? Everybody has like a capacity of what they can handle and what they can do. And our objective is to try to max out that capacity, figure out what that basin is, figure out what that capacity is. And once it starts spilling over, that's when it's time to split that stock and add someone else. And now we add another person to take some of that overflow off, and then to reduce that basin, and then challenge that individual with something else. Because what I've learned is people need to be challenged and need to be learning and growing themselves as the business grows, or they're not going to stick, or they're not going to be, nobody it's human nature. We don't want to do the same thing over and over and over and over. Like, what's the challenge in that? We're humans. We want to be challenged. We want to learn, we want to grow. We have to create an environment in our business that empowers others to learn, to grow, to be challenged, to expand themselves, and to grow with the business. And I think that's one thing that we were able to do early on, and we've been able to kind of like rinse and repeat as we've grown the business.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
So
I agree. And you're right. You're right. You did already you learned it before I joined.
yeah, it was, hey, just learn from your mistakes, right? Lesson in business, learn from your mistakes. Right? Cliche, but it's so crazy important. And if you don't make moves, you don't take action, you don't try, you're not going to learn, because you're not going to make mistakes, because you're so cautious and you won't try things that are going to fail. But hey, just go out and make things happen. And when you fail, great, learn from it, grow from it, get better, and try again. Right? We are definitely this is this process is what we have now is a example of that. So let's fast forward a little bit. Right? We were able to go, just to kind of paint the picture of the company. Like, everybody correlates revenue, right? We were able to go with our business. We went, we started halfway through the year. We did about 500,000 that first year. That very next year, you were heavily involved, and Mom was involved. And now we had a little bit of a team of people, Cody and the rest of our team. We did 1.3 million that second year.
Mm-hmm.
The first full year, which is our second year in business, the third year, which is our second full year in business, we more than doubled that. We went to 2.9, almost $3 million in our second full year in business. And we rocked and rolled. And we had some good market things. I believe that was because of the team we built, and the market was right. It helped us accelerate our growth in our business. But as I shared in when I shared some of the story, is I'll take ownership, because we saw that success. Man, I thought I had the Midas touch, and it was like, let's double down. Let's start scaling. Let's start opening new offices. Market did not, show up like it should have. And what I mean by that is hailstorms didn't happen as much as we'd liked. We tried to press and go to different markets, and we lost $1 million in revenue. So that was an interesting little curve and journey as well. Like, walk me through some of the takeaways of some of the things that you observed from us getting to that $3 million mark and then dipping before we skyrocketed, right?
Yeah, I think that probably because it was just so early on for me, and I was just like probably more laser focused. I wasn't so much thinking about all of those things. I know it was scary. I remember that. And
Yeah.
I know you guys were gone, and all of the way that scenario played out. But I think it was like a little bit of wake up call for all of us, really. I think that we can do that. It's really, really, really easy, just like what you said, to say I got the Midas touch. And we've learned this lesson over and over and over again, I think, and probably will continue to, because that's how humility works. But like, just knowing like, oh, like, this is the grace of God, or this is, like, to learn the difference between like, what am I doing, what the market is doing, what people around me are doing, like what's the thing. I think there was even a point, I would say, where probably a little bit further on, where we took another dip, where all of us had to step back and be like, oh, this, I didn't actually do this. This was
Yeah,
not
right.
me.
Yeah.
Marketing, it didn't matter. Everybody that was like taking credit, for how great Elite was doing, I think we all had to step back and say, oh, there were some things here that really was a blessing in us getting here, not just our abilities, although our abilities helped so much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Building that team. So let's take it a step further. Okay. We kind of we dipped, and that was scary, because that was I had more weeks that during that year that I was like, oh crap, I don't know if we can pay the bills. I don't know if we're going to even pay our vendors. I don't know if I'm getting paid. Like, many a times it was like, Debbie was calling me on a Thursday saying, hey, we need some money, or we're not be able to pay our bills on Friday. Right.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a major check to the spirit and the ego for me personally, and I'm like, oh crap, I don't have the Midas touch. I I'm not where I need to be. Let's go. Let's press in. And that's where I think we really started really focusing on the systems and like training, and like that's when we started implementing in the sales system and really started like, hey, if we're going to do this right, we have to start building processes in the business. And I think that is a turning point in which you started to really see some of your, God-given strengths were like, when we got to that point, we're like, hey, I can't just wing it anymore. This isn't going to work. Like Randy just can't just go out there and hustle and wing it and hope that it works.
Yeah.
We have to actually buckle down and do this. And that's where I think you and Mom, really started like, hey, where you guys really started to grab on and take ownership of like, no, if this is going to work, we have to really build out the structure of the back office of the business to make that happen. Like, what are a couple key things, key takeaways, or key things that you think maybe you guys implemented or some adjustments you made on the back end of the business that helped us build that foundation? Because mind you, we're going along this journey, where we went to 3 million down to 2 million. And then from that very next year, we went to 6, and then to 7.5, then to like 8, and then to 12, and then to 17, then to 20. Like we scaled from 2 to 20 in 4.5 years. Yeah. What do you think was some of the key takeaways or some adjustments that were made to allow us to do that from the back office, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think from the jump, I think we need to give Mom some credit here. I think both of us really fought her a bit in the beginning. Obviously, it's our mom. You guys give us some, like, give us a little grace here. And then, we've been hearing her talk to us for years, and way more years than the elite ran. But Mom came in with that mindset, and she, did her best to force her hands in all those areas. But I would say a big one is like from the absolute, day one, and then into that part where we start to scale, she was really, 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 really adamant about our books. Like, like there's very few businesses that I talk to today that I are currently job costing or job costed from the very beginning. She just created a system where we were tracking everything on a job from the very, very jump, which really gave us this crazy healthy foundation when we started to scale. We didn't have to say, oh, we're at 3 million now. We have to figure out how to move all our systems, our, on fire stuff into this organized structure of job costing to keep track of these jobs on an individual basis. Like we did that from the very, very beginning. I'd say another thing that we brought in early on that I think was really, really critical in our ability to take that scale the way that we did was that job submission process. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse there because anybody that's heard me talk has heard me talk about that. But that was just something that we brought in, and then we refined and refined and refined and refined. And so, that plan to, or fail to plan to fail, sort of mindset. And so I think that's a big thing. So the books and then our production planning are probably the two biggest takeaways, I would say, in regards to how do we get there in a healthy way. And what we did well. And we were brought in a CRM really early on. And right about that time, actually, I think we're 2 years in when we stopped operating in Excel as our CRM.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's key too, is because foundation, we brought in good people. We learned, we grew, we kept learning, kept implementing systems. And then at that point, you guys really dove into the books and the tracking of absolutely everything. We had to know exactly what our numbers were. And if we had to know exactly what the profit was on every single job to make tweaks to then sell at a higher margin and fix things and adjust structures and commissions and all the things to then make sure the company is making enough money to then thrive. And at the same time, you started working on a production process, all the while Cody and I were focused on the front end and building out a sales system. So we were able to kind of divide and conquer. Okay, and that's the power of investing in people in a team that have different skill sets, is we were able to work on multiple areas of the business at the same time. And all of a sudden you catch a little storm, you catch some, some momentum, and then things really started taking off from there. And then but the key was we had a foundation. If we didn't have that foundation, we didn't dive into the foundation, when we didn't know if we were even going to survive, we pressed forward, we stayed, we showed up, we built systems. And then all of a sudden it caught fire, and then we just scaled the business up. Yeah, I love that. And it's a good perspective, because that's why I want to bring it. Because I'm on the front end, I'm on the front lines, marketing, sales, and you guys are on the back end. You guys are on the back lines, behind the enemy lines. Like, hey, we have to support this team. We have to create an environment that allows them to thrive as well. And you successfully did that. And that's, I think, the short takeaways of how we're able to scale our business, right? Everyone loves that word, scale. Let's fast forward again. And as we start the process, we're going to land the plane here. We're probably going to have to do multiple episodes here, because I love the interaction. So if you're listening to the show, please shoot a comment, comment, subscribe. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're listening on a podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're on the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast. We have the audio, the video, multiple versions of this. And if this is good content, if you're getting some value out of this, share it with us. Give us a review, a comment, a like, a subscribe. All that stuff helps with all the algorithms. So we appreciate our audience. We've been doing this a long time and really trying to press in and grow this thing. And it's viewers and listeners like you that are going to help us do that. So thank you for that. But what we're going to do now, as we get back, after I get off my commercial there.
Honor of the late and great Nick Parrott.
Took on whatever I threw at her and just took on what. Welcome to the show. Give just a minute.
JobLimits is a fully customizable back office solution.
Track leads, jobs, tasks from one easy-to-use software.
And with the largest ecosystem of integrated partners, if we don't do it, we have a friend who does.
Learn how the #1 back office system in roofing
can help you be efficient, be organized, be professional, and be profitable.
Are you looking to stand out with your proposal? Sumo Quote is the contractor quote that crushes the competition. It is the fastest way to build custom quotes that impresses clients and wins more work. It's one of those must-have technologies for roofing contractors, allowing them to sell faster, sell more, and sell smarter. Be sure to check them out at try.sumoquote.com/start-build-grow.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
Get back to, okay, we scaled our business, right? And we've averaged north of $10 million, north of 8 figures. If you take an average for, 6 years now, 7 years, something like that, it's been a multi-million-dollar company for a long time. That doesn't mean it's all, cupcakes and rainbows. It's still challenging. The numbers are bigger, but the challenges are bigger as well. But there's still some key takeaways, some key things that we have to do, and we have learned from that process as well. So let's try to fast forward to, you grew from being admin to then becoming the production manager, to then getting into the operations, implementing CRMs, and then building systems and processes, to CEO, to now COO, to operations director. And now you're taking all those systems and processes, and now you're coaching others. So let's fast forward to that. Now you're essentially running this large organization, 30 plus, probably 100 plus people out every single day. When it comes to crews, there's probably over 100 people a day working in sync for the operation of this business. Fast forward there and give us some takeaways as to, what are some things that you were able to learn and implement, but also do it from a coaching perspective. I'm a roofing contractor. I'm listening to this show. I want to get there. I want to get to 5 million. I want to get to 7. I want to get to 10 million. I want to get to a big company, but I don't see the perspective from the back office, from someone in the operations that has an incredible operational mind like you do. Give me some takeaways and advice there as we start to land this thing.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to like my takeaways, but I think I would start with having a hardline system. What I mean by that is, we want to create ease, right, for our staff and our team. And I understand that. I'm there too. Like I want my staff. I don't want to overburden them. You know what I mean? But I also do not want any part of my system out of line, because at some point in that assembly line, it's going to burden somebody. So it's just like, who are we going to burden if we're not going to have a hard line system? And so I would say decide what the system's going to be and stick to it every single time. You know, and you're going to have your one-off, so you know where to have grace and where to say yes so that you can say no. Have that power of no, don't overuse it. But I would say that's key. And that is one thing that mom did from the beginning. It drove everybody crazy, just like I drive everybody crazy now. Like, you know, she would not accept, you know, halfway. She wouldn't accept this without this, or that without that, you know? And so I think that's a really, really big part of being able to scale successfully, is having a hard line system. Let your no's be your no's and your yeses your yeses, and make sure all of that is communicated in an efficient and effective way. So that's where you can create ease, is making sure that the communication is healthy in regards to those systems and processes.
Yeah, and obviously I've probably been the biggest, you know, I'm always in, I live in the gray area of like, you know, new things, challenging things. Is not like hard lines is the way I operate, you know, but you guys have done a great job with that. But I think the key there is, if you're going to implement something and you're going to, you know, you got to draw a hard line, like no, like the power of the word no in business and success and in entrepreneurship is so important. I mean, look at this in, you've heard this from like Warren Buffett. It's like that, like they'll say like that they say no to 90% of things, but the things they do say yes to create an incredible level of success for them, right? So apply that to, you know, to business and to building a team and holding people accountable. You got to be able to say no, got to stick with that. And it's obviously hard for me, you know, but I've learned to support you guys as well. But I think the key there is, if you're going to say no to something or yes to something, if there's some sort of process or system that we got to hold our team accountable to, we have to be able to explain, train, and also explain the why behind it. You know, people operate a lot better and they're going to be a lot more supportive of change and them being held accountable if they understand the why, as to behind the scenes, as to why they're being held accountable. Why are you saying no to this? Because I asked you to do X, Y, and Z, or try to, you know, change this process or go around this system. What's the why behind it? So I think that's a key takeaway, is that as you're implementing this stuff, you know, for those of you trying to like figure out how to implement some of this, is, you know, make sure you explain the why behind it. I think that goes a long way, and people are a lot more susceptible to being held accountable if they know the why and the purpose behind why they're being held accountable.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you can give examples of what goes wrong that will impact them.
Yeah.
Okay. So let that why tie into, you know, this is the why, because it's going to make your day look like this if you don't do it, or could make your day look like this if you don't do it. Or if you do it, it could make your day look like this, you know? So just like adding, like, make it personal, too, because that will actually connect at a deeper level with, you know, we're dealing with people, you know, as leaders. And so like just always really stepping into the strategy that we're using when we're dealing with those people. That's something that I've, you know, me 8 years ago I would have been like, and you don't want to do it because move on, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not
do it because I said so.
Yeah. You want a new roof on it? You tell your customer. You know, so I've come a long way in that. So I've learned a ton. So it's really, really, really critical. If you could do this from the beginning, you'd save yourself so much pain and struggle and issues, you know, with your staff and things like that. Just having that really, that emotional intelligence and knowing how to strategize individuals and people in your conversations with them.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in traditional fashion, as we're I'm going to wind the show down here, you know, I want you to think of, you know, as you know, and here we go. Here's the plug too. If any of these things sparked an interest, if you want to press in and learn more about, you know, maybe how to implement and some of the key structures of different processes and systems that we've built over the years, you know, that's why we do. That's why we have the Roofing Academy. She works with me. You split your time with running the roofing company, and you have a whole team of people, a leadership team in place that allows you a little bit of freedom to be able to coach others and help others as well. So you've been really a key element of there, that kind of like a hidden secret there, but here it is. If you've been listening to multiple shows, this show, and you haven't pressed in and haven't like explored the world of coaching and consulting and having someone else's systems, contribute to your business, I challenge you to do that. It's for us, going back to that when we scaled our business, I think that was also one of the key takeaways is we embraced that. We started spending a lot, to this day, we spend a lot of money on coaches and consultants and people that can help us grow and get better. And we spend a lot of our time helping others as well. So I challenge you to do that. There's a link below. There's a link in however you're getting this content. There's a link, or you can just go to the website, theroofingacademy.com. Real simple, www.theroofingacademy.com. You can book a call with me. I'd love to connect with you, answer some of your questions, and maybe see if it makes sense to connect with us, to work with Brie, work with myself or one of our other coaches, or all the above. That's what we do. That's why we exist. So press into that. I'd love to hear from you. So as we are landing this plane, or winding this thing down, you've done a lot of coaching, consulting, built systems for companies. What's one piece of advice that you would give to a roofing owner from an executive admin perspective?
From an administrative perspective, I would say to always look at your organization and the ops and the administrative side of your organization from that 20-foot view, instead of, where you came from. So whether you were a salesman that became an owner, or you were a installer that became an owner, or wherever you came from before, wherever your experiences that impacts the decisions you make, that constantly pull yourself out of that person and view the organization, especially the administrative and operational side, from a 20-foot view. Would be my advice.
Or the 30,000-foot views they say, right? Like look over the top, right? And try to really look at your business.
Yeah, you got to see the beginning from the end, especially in today's high technology, fast-paced environment that we're in. Like one decision can create a ripple, and that ripple may lead you to a learning mistake, but it could lead you to an organizational ending mistake. So that's why I think it's so critical that you're always looking at the organization from that big. If I say yes to this, what is the ripple that this yes creates? What is the ripple that this no creates? So being aware of that, like how's this decision going to affect the wave of my org?
I love that. It's self-awareness. It's so key. We got to be able to self-aware and enough to step outside the business, look at it from a different perspective, and try to really think about how every decision affects so many other people versus just you and your perspective. So many of us as business owners, as founders, as entrepreneurs, I think, me too, to this day, I still have a ton of blind spots. I see things from my perspective. And I think to reiterate what you're saying is we have to step outside of our perspective and really hone our skills of looking at things from others' perspectives. And that'll help us really see things in a different way to empower and allow our team to be successful.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, it's always touching. And, we've come through so much, and I'm so grateful to have you on my journey and be a part of this. And I love you. And I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much. This is so much fun. And for those of you listening, thank you once again for listening. Comment, like, subscribe, share this with somebody you care about. Reach out to either one of us on social media or go to the website, theroofingacademy.com. We'd love to connect with you. And if you want to kind of, be able to fast track and look at some of the systems and some of the things that we talked about building a foundation and building a business, you can go and grab a copy of my book. That's the Start, Build, Grow show, right? It's from Start It, Build It, Grow It The Contractor's Guide to Success. You can grab a copy on Amazon.com. Just go to there's probably either a link or just go to Amazon and search start it, build it, grow it. And you can learn a lot of the things that we talked about today and get a little more detail on all this whole journey that we've been on. So thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Brie, and God bless.
Anytime.